Hello, everyone. Raven, can you hear me? Mag-start na ta?
Okay, sure.
Okay. Okay. It's already 3 o'clock, I think, and we should start our Manila Forum. So a pleasant afternoon to all. We will now officially start the 6th Manila Forum. To the members and officers of the Association for Philippine-China Understanding, or APCU, led by its Chairman Emeritus, former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, um, APCO Chairman Secretary Raul Lambino, and APCO President Mr. Jeffrey Nang, to the officials of the Embassy of the People's Republic of China in the Philippines, led by the Ambassador of China to the Philippines, His Excellency Ambassador Huang Xilian, to our distinguished and eminent keynote speakers, to our official media partners, SMNI and the Manila Times. By the way, we are live streamed on the different social media platforms of SMNI, the Manila Times, and of course, APCO and the Chinese Embassy. To our friends, to our media friends who are also here, friends and colleagues and guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 6th Manila Forum with the theme, Retrospect, an Outlook for Philippines-China Relations. My name is Anna Malindog-Uy, and I will serve as the moderator of this forum. Many of us know that the Philippines and China established formal diplomatic relation on June 9, 1975. However, the ties that bind the two countries are undoubtedly much more profound than 47 years. The historical links reflect not only our profound friendship, but a deeper kinship. The Philippines and China are natural friends, brought about by the circumstances of our geography and common historical experiences. Currently, the bilateral relationship between the Philippines and China remains strong and focused on friendship and positive cooperation within the ASEAN framework, and whether bilaterally and multilaterally. On this note, our forum today will focus and explore the gains and challenges of the bilateral relation between our two countries, the Philippines and China, and between our two peoples, Filipinos and Chinese, under the leadership of the outgoing President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. The forum will also, to a greater extent, explore perspectives, prescription, and the outlook of the two countries' bilateral relations under the incoming new administration to be led by President-elect Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. That being said, without further ado, let us start the program proper of the 6th Manila Forum. To start with, ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming former President of the Philippines and the Chairman Emeritus of APCU, former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, for her welcome remarks. Raven?
A warm welcome to our keynote speakers, Communications Secretary Martin Andanar and Mr. Deng Jun, President of Chinese Enterprises Philippines Association, or CEPA, as well as all the participants of this Manila Forum. I also congratulate Ambassador Huang and APCO President Nang for sustaining the Manila Forum even during these times of limited mobility. Secretary Andanar is certainly very well qualified to present a retrospect on the Philippines-China relationship because his job of communicating the work of President Rodrigo Duterte made him a special ringside observer to many accomplishments of the Duterte administration in that area. 3 years ago, I was privileged to hear Secretary Andanar trace in a very interesting way how the Belt and Road developed and how it was helped both people-to-people exchange and economic cooperation between the Philippines and China. I am sure he will be just as interesting and enlightening in explaining how the comprehensive relationship between our two countries went from triumph to triumph over the past 6 years. We look forward to hearing from the CEPA what their expectations are for the next chapter of Philippines-China relations. I understand that CEPA was established in the Philippines 20 years ago and has around 90 members composed mostly of state-owned companies that are into agriculture, manufacturing, construction, and technology. We also look forward to the analysis of Mr. Deng Jun about the prospects of this relationship from his viewpoint as Bank of China Manila country head. When President-elect Bongbong Marcos emerged as winner in this year's elections, CEPA expressed its strong confidence and vowed to work with the incoming administration to contribute to the country's economic development. We look forward to Mr. Jun Deng expounding on that statement. Thank you all, good morning to all, and welcome.
Thank you, former President Arroyo, for that very inspiring and very informative welcome remarks. To introduce our first keynote speaker, let me call on the APCO Deputy Secretary General, Mr. Peter Lavinia. Sir Peter, you have the floor.
Good afternoon. Allow me to add to the already interesting introduction of our first keynote speaker just made by our APCO Chair Emeritus, former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. Our speaker was a popular media personality before he joined the Duterte cabinet in 2016. Like the President, he hails from Mindanao and studied first at the Xilian University in Cagayan de Oro City. Then he proceeded to take up social and political studies at the Federation University of Australia. And he also took up masteral and special courses in media, communications, social entrepreneurship, and management from the National University of Singapore, the Asian Institute of Management, the Northern Illinois University, Georgetown University, University of Harvard School, Kennedy School of Government, as well as at the University of Hong Kong. In government, he is known to champion, among others, the Freedom of Information Act, the security and welfare of media workers, and the modernization of government media and communication capabilities. Most recently, he was at the forefront, as already mentioned by President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, of the Duterte legacy, outlining the achievements of the administration, including the good ties with China. He also led the good bilateral relations between the Philippines and China in media cooperation among state media entities, and received broadcast media equipments donated by China, handed over by no less than His Excellency Ambassador Huang Xilian. We have a small group of media personalities fighting fake news and promoting Philippine-China understanding. We call this group as the Asian Media Circle. The former director, Joaquin C., and myself represented APCO in that group, along with George C. and Austin Ong of the Integrated Development Studies Institute, Kamentong Herman Q. Laurel, and Kaado Paglinawan of the BRICS Philippines Study Center, and the Pandesal Forum host, Wilson Leaf Roles. Take note that the last three are all our recipients of the APCO Awards. All these, our guest speaker supported, and in fact, he attended some of our meetings. This morning, his daughter, Alexa, also joined us at the Huawei headquarters at BGC, listening to the presentation about Huawei's 20th anniversary in the Philippines. All this will show truly that our speaker is not just a guest in our forum, but we consider him as one of us. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome the head of the Presidential Communications Operation Office and Presidential Spokesperson, the Honorable Secretary Martin Andanar.
Thank you very much, Pete, my good friend, former colleague in government, my kababayan, and my distant relative in Mindanao. Maayong hapon kanimo, sir. To former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, Chairman Emeritus of Association for Philippines-China Understanding, to Ambassador Huang Xilian, Ambassador of China to the Philippines, Mr. Deng Jun, President of the Chinese Enterprises Philippines Association, Country Head of Bank of China, Manila Branch, Secretary Raul Lambino, the Association for the Philippines-China Understanding Chairman, President Jeffrey Nang, Association for Philippines-China Understanding, our moderator today, Professor Anna Malindog-Uy. Good afternoon to everyone. We are entering a new phase in bilateral relations where the years of cooperation between our country and China have achieved successful endeavors and opened immense possibilities for further growth, and the official and uniquely personal dialogues of President Xi Jinping and President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, including our president's visit to the mainland, created another avenue for interaction called the Comprehensive Strategic Cooperation or Cooperative Relationship of our two countries. This is a major landmark for our country. China today is our largest trading partner. The growth indicators from this threshold show a high-level increase in trade, in the imports of Philippine goods, synchronized customs procedures, public and private exchanges in commerce, direct investments for infrastructure such as highways, bridges, a sports complex, and market in Marawi City, including the impacting of the industrial supply chains, plus the sustained supply of vaccines and anti-epidemic health programs. We must take note of the fact that China was the first country to donate millions of anti-COVID vaccines, attendant health and hospital supply, and the assistance of Chinese medical experts at the initial wave of the virus infection in our country. But the world today has acquired a different face. It yields to a post-pandemic landscape where the survival of humankind is seriously threatened, either by the impending scarcity of food because of the increased prices of petrol affecting the production of essential ingredients for food and basic commodities. This disturbance is the regular flow of international business, is a consequence caused by sanctions imposed on countries where there is conflict and where there are military confrontations in land and water borders. We are confident that China would be by our side for support and assistance. At the 14th BRICS Summit in Shanghai recently, the member countries of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa raised the global post-COVID recovery process as a major priority, while expanding military alliances loomed in several horizons of the world. There are battlegrounds where the countries involved are shadowed by other countries in a seeming race for the grasping power of homogeneity. This forum elevates our vision towards the promotion of peace, security, development, and cooperation on which BRICS was originally founded. China focuses our intents of the Belt and Road Initiative, which it launched more than a decade ago. In this manner, Philippines and China relations are concentrated on what has been spelled out emphatically and specifically on the following objectives: integration, digitalization for acceleration, increasing in the flow of trade, of capital, of money, direct investments, technology, the exchange of information, data, culture, and ideas across boundaries and people-to-people interactions for the common good. Our islands are geographically at the center of the Pacific Ocean and the South China Sea. The archipelagic structure of our country is conducive to navigational passages and routes. Our foreign relations are anchored on the independence of our diplomatic alliances, and our friendship with all nations is the foundation of our freedom to uphold our sovereignty. We are positive that China would pursue dialogue for an acceptable common platform with no conflict. The Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or the RCEP, strengthens our links with China, the ASEAN, Japan, and South Korea. Our global future is premised on these fundamentals, and Philippine-Chinese relations stand on this solid ground of partnerships for progress and peace. 47 years ago, we opened diplomatic ties with the People's Republic of China. The state of affairs for our tomorrows begins with the entrance of the new government of President-elect Ferdinand Marcos Jr., or PBBM, who was the young boy who first met with Chairman Mao Zedong at the initial meeting of former First Lady Imelda Marcos. And BBM's rallying cry for unity augurs well. It signals the continuance of our oneness and the strength of our relationship with China. May this new era uphold and uplift the gains we have achieved. Mabuhay to the Philippine-Chinese future. 谢谢.
Thank you, Secretary Martin Andanar, for that very enlightening and informative keynote speech. Friends and colleagues, moving on. To introduce our second keynote speaker for the 6th Manila Forum, let me call on APCU's Vice Chairman, Mr. Sixto Benedicto. Sir Noy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Professor Anna. Mr. Deng Jun, the current country head of the Bank of China Hong Kong Limited, Manila branch, holds a doctorate degree in economics from Wuhan University. He has worked for the Bank of China Group since he graduated from the university in 1990. After holding various positions in the bank, he was appointed General Manager of the Bank of China, Wuhan, BTD branch in 2001. In 2006, he was appointed Deputy Managing Director for Dongfeng Peugeot Citroën Auto Finance Company Limited, a joint venture between Bank of China Group Insurance Company Limited, Dongfeng Peugeot Citroën Automobile Company Limited, and Bank PSA Finance. In 2009, he was appointed Assistant General Manager in the Bank of China Limited Head Office Corporate Banking Group. In 2011, he was appointed Country Head of Bank of China Limited Manila Branch. In addition, Mr. Deng is currently the Director of the Board of Bankers Association of the Philippines and the President of the Chinese Enterprise Philippine Association, or CEPA, the representative group of around 100 registered Chinese member companies in the Philippines devoted to supporting enterprises from China to come to the Philippines for trade and investment. Without much ado, may I introduce to you Mr. Deng Jun. Thank you.
Her Excellency, former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, His Excellency Ambassador of China to the Philippines, Huang Xilian, Honorable Secretary Martin Andanar, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. First of all, thank you, Association for Philippine-China Understanding, for inviting me to share with you my thoughts on the retrospect and outlook for the China-Philippine relations. This is certainly a very timely and relevant forum as we continue to work together towards the sustainable development of our two nations. I have been working in the Philippines for the past 10 years. And for the last 6 years, during President Duterte's administration, I have witnessed that under the great leadership of President Xi Jinping and the President Duterte, the bilateral ties of China and the Philippines are smoothly realized, taking an upturn and scoring consolidation and uplift, and continuously achieved tangible outcomes. Over the past 6 years, we consistently witnessed how the Build program of Duterte administration complemented China's Belt and Road initiatives through the government-to-government projects carried out. We saw G2G projects implemented in highways and bridges, agricultural cooperation, anti-pandemic, disaster relief. At present, 16 projects have been completed and more than 20 projects are being implemented. To name a few, the East Patalian Bridge was completed ahead of schedule in July last year. Binondo in Intramuros Bridge completed April this year. China Aid Agricultural Technology Center, which benefit over 134,000 households. Kaliwa Dam project launched last June, which will supply 600,000 tons of water each day after completion. These infrastructure developments will surely contribute to high economic growth, create jobs, and eventually attract more investments. Over the past 6 years, Chinese companies cumulatively invested 161 billion pesos in the country, which is 3 times higher than the 2010 to 2015 figure. China has thus become the Philippines' second largest source of foreign investments in the period of time. At the helm of this unprecedented growth is Department of Finance under the leadership of Secretary Carlos Dominguez III. In 2017, the DOF organized ASEAN Finance Ministers Investors Forum in Cebu to tackle ways of further harnessing investment opportunities within the Southeast Asian region. In 2017 and 2019, they organized the Philippine economic briefings in China, aimed to provide potential Chinese investors with an in-depth update on the Philippine economic, physical, and political situation, as well as on the administration's Build program. It is during the past 6 years where we saw the successful issuance of the Philippine first and second Panda bonds, or RMB denominated bonds, in 2018 and 2019 respectively. This enables the Philippines set the bar for other Asian countries interested in tapping the surging Chinese market through RMB denominated bonds. This successful issuance also exhibited the strong confidence of the investors in the outlook of the Philippine economy. Over the past 6 years, we witnessed the improved levels of trade cooperation between the two countries. Through years of enhanced economic partnership between Philippines and China, the bilateral trade between two nations has reached a new level, where trade volume has doubled to $82 billion. China has become the Philippines' largest trading partner and has jumped to become the Philippines' second largest export market. The Department of Trade and Industry, headed by Secretary Ramon Lopez, had a great role in making this happen. The DTI implemented impressive projects that produced endless opportunities for Philippine and Chinese businesses. In 2017, the SME Cross-Border Trade and Investment Conference was held with over 600 small and medium enterprises, both from China and the Philippines, participating in the matchmaking process. For 4 consecutive years from 2018 to 2021, the DTI facilitated the participation of Philippine exhibitors in the China International Import-Expo in Shanghai, which provided a platform for companies to showcase their products and their brands in order to find and develop more business partnerships. Secretary Lopez called the event a big win for Filipino companies, adding that Philippine products known to be of quality to foreign buyers receive overwhelming approval at CIIE. In 2021, the DTI, through the Board of Investments, promoted the Philippines and its many investment opportunities during the China International Fair for Investment and Trade, where Chinese businesses were able to participate, including the Philippine Investment Forum, the Philippine Construction and Infrastructure Opportunity Investment Forum, and many other forums online and on-site. Over the past 6 years, with the support of the central banks of the Philippines and China, we saw the cultivation of the financial cooperation between the two countries. The Philippine RMB trading community was established in 2018, composed of the Philippines' 13 largest banks together with the Bank of China to facilitate direct foreign exchange trading of the Chinese RMB and the Philippine peso. This enables clients to save on friction costs while using a more efficient way to transact payments. The Philippine RMB Clearing Bank was established in 2021 and is the milestone of the development of local RMB market, where the total volume of RMB cleared in the Philippines amounted to nearly 1 trillion RMB, which is 10 times bigger than in 2016. This ranked the Philippines third in cross-border RMB transactions among the Southeast Asia countries in 2021. BSP Governor Benjamin Jokno shared that the establishment of an RMB clearing bank in the country is an important step in the currency diversification of the local market, adding that the establishment of an RMB clearing facility in the country will help strengthen the financial sector through direct access to Chinese yuan market, liquidity provision of the local RMB market, and cost efficiency for trade transaction. For the past 6 years, more and more Chinese have a better understanding of the Philippines and on how to do business in the country. The Chinese Enterprises Association Philippines saw a 70% significant increase in its membership from various industries. To date, CEPA members have worked with the Philippine government and the partners to provide over 150,000 jobs in the process of revitalizing the Philippine economy. We have the utmost gratitude to both the Philippine and the Chinese governments in nurturing its bilateral relations, making all these achievements happen, which brought great benefits to the businesses and the people of both nations. I agree with Governor Ben Jokno when he said that the current administration is the golden years of the Philippine infrastructure, thanks to the Build, Build, Build program, when the government spent 5 to 6% of the GDP, that in turn provided us with better airports, seaports to further boost the country's international trading. This program created high-quality jobs for Filipinos, which expanded the country's capacity to gain economic growth. Facing the future, the bilateral ties will grow even closer, according to the President-elect Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Bilateral ties shall be strengthened and more opportunities will be created in the areas of infrastructure, including digital infrastructure, agriculture, telecoms, renewable energy, trade, logistics, manufacturing, financial sector, among others. I was very pleased to learn about President-elect Marcos' stance on the importance of agriculture. The Chinese government has always placed high priority on the development of agriculture. Since the late 70s, China has carried out a policy on reform and opening up to quicken the pace of agriculture reform and the development. In opening agriculture to the rest of the world, China has increasingly closer links with other countries in this field, built up agricultural exchange and cooperation relations, and has been actively aiding other developing countries in support of local agricultural development. Just this year, the Philippines reaped the benefits of the agricultural collaboration with China by the Philippine Sino Center for Agricultural Technology through the inauguration of new breeding laboratories to increase food supply in the country. Thanks to this initiative, the country will be able to increase its rice production through the hybrid rice technology introduced from China. We are very much eager to act as a bridge in contributing to collaborative projects in bringing agriculture technologies from China. In light of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, or RCEP, according to the 2021 study on the impact of the RCEP on the Philippine economy by Dr. Cesar Correnton, by 2031, poverty incidence will decrease by 3.62%, and the real GDP will increase by 1.93%, because the RCEP offers cheaper cost, convenience, competitiveness, and complementation. We are expecting that the incoming administration will approve this important agreement, which is not only to enhance economic recovery beyond the COVID-19 pandemic, to promote the trade and investment between China and the Philippines, but also to make the country an ideal manufacturing, research and development hub, as the country owns strategic location, dynamic workforce, stable legal regime on intellectual property, strategic trade management and competition laws. In the areas of capital markets, we at the Bank of China are committed to playing an active role in its development. We shall underwrite more insurance of the Philippine government's bond because we are fully confident in the economic development of the country under the incoming administration. With the support of the Chinese and the Philippine regulators, we would like to work closely with partners in the financial sectors of both countries, endeavor to build the settlement infrastructure necessary to support the connections of stock markets of the Philippines and China that aims to enable Chinese companies to raise the capital for their operations in the Philippines and vice versa. Chinese Enterprises Philippine Association, on the other hand, will help continue to deepen cooperation between the two countries in the fields of infrastructure, agriculture, green energy, cross-border e-commerce, and jointly promote the implementation of more projects to bring more benefits to the people of two countries. It is important to remember that our two nations are no strangers to friendship and cooperation. In fact, China and the Philippines have shared a long history of cooperation and exchange. Our maritime trade relations extend over 1,000 years, and today China is one of the Philippines' biggest foreign trade partners and investors. The members of Chinese Enterprises Philippine Association, together with local businesses, will remain committed to supporting the sustainable growth of the Philippines as one of Asia's fastest growing economies by playing a bridging role to make continuous efforts, implement social responsibility initiatives, and produce greater contributions to deepening economic cooperation and promoting the people-to-people connections between the two countries. We hope that the incoming administration will remain the stability and the continuity of its economic and the trade policies towards China and create a more favorable environment for Chinese companies to invest in the Philippines. We are convinced that the bilateral relationship of the Philippines and China will continue reaching new heights. Thank you, and mabuhay.
Thank you, Mr. Jun, for that equally illuminating and very extensive keynote speech. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we move on to another exciting part of our program, and that's the open forum. So basically, this is the question and answer. So I have collected some questions, and the first question is addressed to Secretary Andanar. Sir, how will you assess the Philippine-China bilateral relations and friendship during the 6-year term of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte? What are the successes and what are the areas that need further improvements? Secretary Andanar?
Thank you for the question, Anna. The President, as our country's chief foreign policy architect, has strengthened and has deepened relations with the People's Republic of China. We are once again grateful to China, our friend for more than 1,000 years, for helping us through these challenging and tough times. With the vaccines China has donated, we were able to start our healing and economic recovery as a people and nation during the beginning of the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next question is actually addressed to Mr. Deng Jun. The question is, under the new incoming administration with a Marcos presidency, what are the areas of cooperation and coordination that both countries should focus on and pay more attention to, paving the way toward a more robust and reinforced Philippine-China mutual understanding and friendship, and economically strong and financially viable Philippines? Sir?
Thank you, Anna, for the question. The longevity of the Philippines and China relations points to a complementarity of our two economies. I think there are at least 3 areas that both countries can focus on to help create an economically strong and financially viable Philippines. First is in the infrastructure industry. Infrastructure has been and continue to play an important role in China's economic growth. Given its success, many Chinese companies in this sector are known to have the best practices and excellent standards recognized globally. Inviting these Chinese companies can help the Philippines create proper urban planning or roadmap to support other industries in the long run. CEPA members, in particular, which are in the infrastructure sector, have been proven to efficiently develop and implement projects that have been beneficial to many areas and communities in the country. The next promising area is the agriculture sector, which is a high priority of the incoming Marcos administration. The Chinese government likewise gives a very high importance in this industry. The Chinese government also give incentives to the players in this sector, which encourage the growth and development of Chinese agriculture. In the Philippines, the private sector may be invited to participate in agricultural development, and sound government policies may be created leaning towards the farmers. I would like to share a story with you. Several days ago, actually the day before yesterday, I met with a Chinese client who saw a very promising business investment in the durian farm in Davao. The durians he saw were pure organic, very delicious, as good as even better than other countries. These are all growing naturally without too much intervention from the farmers. He believes that by introducing Chinese agricultural technology and equipment combined with good management from the hardworking Filipino farmers, production will increase greatly, quality will even be made better, and will ultimately result to good return to the farmers with promoting Philippine brands in the international market. The client is planning to stay in the country for 3 more months, visit more farms, and we'll plan to make the joint venture with Filipino partners. He asked me one question. Are there any government incentives I can avail of here? I think similar to the Creative Act passed into law by the government as a relief to the domestic and the foreign corporations doing the business in the Philippines, other policies may be created favoring business in the agriculture sector. The third one, the area, is in digital technology. China is known to be one of the world's technology leaders in the 21st century. By introducing China's best digital infrastructure to the Philippines, government activities such as online platforms in education or tax collection may be improved. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that very extensive answer. The next question is addressed again to Secretary Andanar, sir. This is the question. Under the incoming new administration with President-elect Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. at the helm, what are the areas or avenues or fields by which the comprehensive strategic partnership between the two countries can be exhibited and made more evident in the context of pandemic response and post-pandemic recovery, investments from China, and socio-economic development of the Philippines? Sir?
As they say, it is better not to reinvent the wheel if the wheel is turning. And in our case, and the People's Republic of China is turning very fast forward. But then again, this question can be best answered by the incoming administration. So I would defer to the Marcos administration to answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think the next question is again addressed to our Mr. June. Sir, the question is all about RCEP. The Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP, is promising as the claims, as per claims, and can be economically revolutionary for the Asia-Pacific region. How relevant is RCEP in the post-pandemic world? How important it is for the Philippines to be part of RCEP, especially in economics, trade, and investments? Sir June?
Thank you, Anna, for the question. RCEP will have the role of an overarching and effective economic and trade mechanism for global economic recovery in the post-pandemic world. It is expected to establish rules and disciplines in doing business and trade in a bigger free trade area. Given the development potential of all 50 members of RCEP and the more streamlined trade arrangements, the region is expected to have a greater economic impact in the world, as it will give member countries a great amount of growth opportunities, which will ultimately produce positive gains. Being part of the RCEP is important for a promising nation like the Philippines, for this will help make the country an ideal manufacturing, research, and development hub, as the country owns a strategic location, dynamic workforce, and also strategic trade management, etc. Together with the Philippine business community, we look forward to the incoming administrations approving this important agreement, which will help accelerate economic recovery beyond the COVID-19 pandemic. Together with the country's key economic reforms, such as the Creative Act, amended Retail Trade Liberation Act, amended the Foreign Investment Act, and amended the Public Service Act, and through RCEP, the Philippines will be able to have access to a much broader market base, and advanced technologies will gain increased investor confidence, some of the key elements in boosting economic growth. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that another extensive answer. I think another question is addressed to Secretary Andanar, and the question is, how will you assess the handling and the management of the differences between the Philippines and China, particularly the dispute over the South China Sea under the Duterte administration? What are the successes? What needs to be improved? what's the way forward or best possible scenario for the both countries to overcome such differences and competing claims over the disputed South China Sea? Sir Andanar?
Thank you, Anna. Once again, the Sino-Philippines relationship has been placed in a better platform. Has not been any better than what we have experienced the last 6 years. The president, meaning President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, has handled the arbitral issue carefully and decisively. This is exhibited by his unrelenting stance on the West Philippine Sea, where he time and again has mentioned that the 2016 arbitral award is a significant contribution to the body of international law, particularly the 1982 UNCLOS, and that it singles out no one. We have pledged to uphold the full and effective implementation of the 2002 Declaration of the Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea, adhere to freedom of navigation, overflight, exercised self-restraint, and protect the marine environment as stipulated in the UNCLOS. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Andanar. And then the last question, actually, both of you can respond, but I will ask first, I think, Mr. Deng, and then Secretary Andanar, if you wish to respond to the question. The question is, what are some of the ways or avenues by which the people-to-people relations and ties between the Filipinos and the Chinese can be strengthened and reinforced further, paving toward a stronger and more reinforced Philippine-China friendship and understanding? Sir?
Thank you, Anna, for the question. As economic ties between the Philippines and China have been continuously developing, cultural exchange needs to be intensified. Communication helps countries to develop their relationships, but the real communication starts from cultural exchange. One of our important milestones of a Bank of China is to further boost the Philippine-China relations is our cultural arts and exchange program entitled In Harmony with Nature, which we brought together 5 Filipino and 5 Chinese artists to participate in a brief residency in historically and culturally significant locations where they can better understand each other's great cultures. I'm reminded of an anecdote from Manny Badimore, a renowned Filipino artist who is one of the participants of the cultural exchange program. He believed that art transcends national borders, saying that a painter's brush can easily build bridges rather than walls between China and the Philippines. Another way that we can strengthen Philippines and China relations is through enhancing our tourism initiatives. Simply put, we need to encourage the Chinese people to visit the Philippines and the Filipino people to visit China, experience each other's environment, interact with the locals, and have a better understanding of each other's conditions and circumstances. Tourism builds bridges between seemingly different countries and enable us to discover the many similarities that we have. Lastly, I believe education is an area where we can continue building a solid friendship between the Philippines and China. We can help our young generation learn about the fruitful and remarkable relationship between our two countries, which started over 1,000 years ago through books and other learning materials. Both our governments may offer scholarship programs to help Filipino and Chinese students take advantage of many educational opportunities available in our countries. By building mutual trust and collaboration through education, I think it will not only further cultivate the Philippine-China relations, but we would also be able to find ways on how we can work together to help our nations achieve growth and success. Thank Thank you. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you so much, sir. Secretary Andanar, you will comment a bit.
Oh, yes, sure, Anna.
Thank you, sir.
You know, aside from the territorial disputes which have been highlighted for years in the Sino and the Philippines relations, especially in the media, it should be mentioned that bilateral trade is stable and robust between the two countries. In addition, to reinforce people-to-people ties, tourism promotion between the Philippines and China has also been intensified. And let me just add to the suggestion that perhaps it will be a helpful strategy to zero in the food, travel, exchanges. Filipinos are fond with the Chinese cuisine, and it will be an opportunity for our chefs, for our cooks to be able to go to China to learn how to cook traditional and even bona fide Chinese cuisines, as well as the Chinese chefs to visit the Philippines to learn our traditional way of cooking our popular food back here in the Philippines. And let me just add to that that the Presidential Communications Operations Office, through the special agreement between the Chinese government, has sent hundreds of students, hundreds of media workers from government, including the private sector, to learn the media landscape in Beijing and other provinces of China. And all of those who have gone through the training have been very impressed by the high technology and by the different ways of disseminating information in China. As a matter of fact, they have written me letters, sent me messages thanking me for promoting such a very good program between the Chinese Embassy and the Presidential Communications Operations Office, both from the government communicators and the private communicators here in the Philippines. And this is one of the best ways to foster people-to-people ties and to somehow diminish the negative perception being portrayed on television, online, on radio, on print about the People's Republic of China. And as they were impressed, I was very impressed too during my first trip in Beijing. Traveling really is one of the best ways to enhance one's knowledge and to broaden one's mind beyond his own borders. Furthermore, perhaps holding sports and other cultural exchanges can also strengthen, again, our relationship, our people-to-people relationship ties, as these can increasingly foster understanding among Filipinos and Chinese. Again, supporting the suggestion earlier to strengthen our student exchanges program. And perhaps let me add to that as well, the learning of Mandarin and the learning of the Filipino language can also be exploited, can also be studied by the Chinese embassy and the Philippine government. So perhaps we can send our linguists there in China, and the linguists in China can be also sent here in the Philippines. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary Martin Andanar and Mr. Deng Jun, for being patient and responding to the questions. And also thank you to you both for the extensive and elaborate answers to all the questions. We appreciate it much. Moving on to the last part of our program, for the closing remarks, let me call on the Ambassador of the People's Republic of China to the Republic of the Philippines, His Excellency Ambassador Huang Xilian. Sir, you have the floor. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Anna. Your Excellency, former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, Your Honorable Secretary Martin Andanar, Honorable my good friend Deng Jun, Honorable Jeffrey Nunn, distinguished guests and friends from media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm delighted to meet all of you online at the 6th Manila Forum for Philippines-China relations with the theme Retrospect and Outlook for China-Philippines relations. Thank you, Your Excellency, former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, Secretary Martin Andanar, and my colleague Mr. Deng Jun for your wonderful speeches, and also the very short provocative Q&A. The year 2022 is a special year for the Philippines. The Filipino people elected their national leaders in a successful general election. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate all Filipino people, and I believe that under the leadership of the new administration, the Philippines will usher in a better future. This year is also special for China-Philippines relations. Several days ago, we celebrated the 47th anniversary of our diplomatic relations and the 21st China-Philippines Friendship Day. A famous Philippine saying goes, one cannot go far if he doesn't know where he came from. The timing and the theme of today's forum cannot be more relevant in this regard. I'm much inspired by your discussions just now, and I'm happy to share with you a few thoughts on China-Philippine relations. First, win-win cooperation is the key to our friendship. Win-win cooperation has always been the theme of our relations, especially in the past 6 years under the leadership of President Xi Jinping and President Duterte. Our bilateral ties have turned around, consolidated, and being elevated, bringing tangible benefits to our two peoples. And the facts have shown that our joint effort to seek development and revitalization fulfills the common aspirations and fundamental interests of the two peoples. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all those who have contributed to China-Philippines relations. Currently, the global economy is facing severe challenges from high inflation, fragile supply chains, and energy and food crises. The livelihood and economic recovery of the Philippines demands a stronger booster. President-elect Bongbong Marcos Jr. has pointed out, quote, "Our strongest partner has always been our close neighbor and good friend, the People's Republic of China," unquote. China will continue to carry out infrastructure cooperation with the Philippines and keep our doors open to more Philippine agricultural products and make more investment in this country to facilitate Philippines' efforts in accelerating industrialization and modernization and capacity building for self-generated development. China is also willing to do its best to help the new administration to effectively deal with the rising prices and shortage of agricultural production materials, and work together to face the uncertainties of the world. China sincerely welcomes the Philippines to actively participate in that global development initiative proposed by President Xi Jinping to jointly create a prosperous future for global development. Second, peace and stability is the safeguard to our friendship. Over the past 6 years, following the important consensus reached by our two leaders, we have persevered in properly handling differences, providing an important safeguard to our friendship, and contributing to regional peace and stability. History tells us that when we can properly handle and manage the differences, our cooperation will proceed without disruption. But when disputes are allowed to escalate or even get out of control, the overall bilateral relations will suffer. We hope to work with the Philippines to find ways to properly manage and resolve our differences in the spirit of goodwill and pragmatism. Currently, the world is in a new period of turbulence and transformation, and peace and security is faced with new challenges. The development of our two countries is rooted in a good neighborliness and friendly surroundings, and also in an Asian family featuring win-win cooperation. Regional security cannot be achieved by strengthening military alliances, and the future of the region must be kept firmly in our own hands. The Global Security Initiative proposed by President Xi, with the future of all humanity in mind, offers China's solution to international security challenges. The Philippines are welcome to join this initiative so that we can work together to address global challenges. Third, mutual understanding and affinity is the bond of our friendship. As a Chinese saying goes, those communicating with hearts, their friendship lasts. China and the Philippines are very close to each other in terms of geographical location, ancestral ties, and cultural backgrounds. People-to-people exchanges have always been the foundation of our bilateral relationship. Our predecessors, such as Admiral Deng and the King of Sulu, brought our two peoples closer by making others' efforts. A few days ago, we successfully held the awarding ceremony for the awards for promoting Philippines-China understanding to honor those who have long been committed to enhancing China-Philippines mutual understanding and friendship. Their deeds are worth remembering, and their contributions will go down in history. At present, China-Philippines relations are in a crucial period of building on the past and ushering in the future. I look forward to more people from all walks of life participating in the great cause of promoting mutual understanding between our two peoples to ensure that our friendship will last from generation to generation. Ladies and gentlemen, last month, President Xi had a telephone conversation with President-elect Bongbong Marcos Jr. They envisioned together a bright future of our bilateral relations, where our relations will shift to a higher gear, and the blueprint for bilateral relations, bilateral friendly cooperation will be followed through. This not only reflects the political determination of the two leaders, but also the common aspiration of our two peoples. China is willing to work with the Philippines to seize the new opportunities to create a better future for China-Philippines relations. Thank you. and mabuhay.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Ambassador Huang Xilian, for that encouraging closing remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues, our forum has come to an end. On behalf of APCU and the Chinese Embassy in the Philippines, I would like to express our sincere thanks to everyone for joining us in the 6th Manila Forum. I would like to especially thank sincerely our distinguished and esteemed keynote speakers. And I would like also to extend our heartfelt thanks to our official media partners, SMNI and the Manila Times, for live streaming the forum on their social media platforms and also for promoting our event. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you've learned something from our excellent and esteemed keynote speakers. We will see you all in our next Manila Forum. Have a great day, everyone. Stay safe and healthy, and thank you again. Sheshe, mabuhay po. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Have a great
Thank you, Anna.
Friday.
Yes. Thank you, Secretary. Yes, and thank Jin, my good friends, for being the keynote speaker. Thank you.
Thank you.